The starter home is a lie, and who killed it forever. You lost $250,000 in lifetime wealth before you ever placed a bid, and the people who took it never set foot in your open house. If you're still renting, every year costs you 5 figures in future net worth. Microclimax. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly who killed the starter home and the playbook to get around them. There's a loop, policy, profit, and zoning that erased the starter home and sold you the residue at a markup. The building was already on fire when you arrived. Cash offers, instant comps, and rents rising faster than your savings. 3 killers did it: scarcity by law, incentives that reward holding, and capital that scales faster than families. They sold the latter, then rented you a step. To see how they pulled it off, and how you can still win, we start where the bids never stood a chance. The bidding war you never saw. The stakes are simple. A first home is usually the first compounding asset most families ever own. Miss it, and you don't just rent a roof, you rent your future. A starter home turns fixed payments into equity, tax-favored gains, and a hedge against rising costs. Without it, you're exposed to renewal hikes, moving costs, and inflation you can't control. What actually happened on the ground wasn't a fair fight. Listings hit the portals at 10:02 a.m. By 10:10, an algorithm had scraped square footage, schools, last sale, and block-level rent history. The software sorted it into the buy box. 3-bed, 2-bath, built after '85, under 1,800 square feet, within 20 minutes of a logistics corridor. By noon, 2 cash offers were out, inspection waived, 5-day close, escalation to a number your lender wouldn't touch. Meanwhile, across town, a couple with pre-approval in hand refreshed the listing they'd flagged at breakfast. They toured at 5 p.m., fell in love with the light in the back room, and wrote a clean offer: 20% down, inspection in 5 days, standard appraisal. They lost by $32,000 to an LLC that never saw the place. They didn't know it yet, but their loss set a new price floor for the block. Here's the human math. They saved for 3 years. They picked a lender early, locked a rate, and carried a pristine credit file. It still wasn't close. Over the next 8 weeks, they wrote 11 more offers. They waived appliances, then repairs under $5,000, then shortened every contingency window the lender would allow. They lost to cash 9 times, to appraisal gaps twice. On offer 12, their agent called before dinner. "We're second again." They ate in silence. What nobody knew at the time, because you only feel it afterward, was how the comps reset. One over-ask cash close resets the appraisal of every similar house within half a mile. Now your lender's spreadsheet lags reality, and the gap becomes your problem. You either bring more cash to close or get outbid by someone who can. This was the moment everything changed. Cash didn't just win the house, it changed the math for the next 10. Appraisers look backward. Algorithms look sideways and forward. The loop tightens. The floor ratchets up. The family tries to catch it and falls behind again. Meanwhile, something else was happening in the shadows of the MLS. Bulk buyers negotiated off-market with builders to take down entire phases before the sales office opened. They weren't hunting deals. They were setting terms, preferred lots, homogeneous specs, finished packages that reduce maintenance variance. For them, the profit wasn't in flipping. It was in holding, renewing, and refinancing against a rent roll that climbed predictably, especially during the 2020 to 2022 zero-rate window when cheap debt amplified returns. On the listing side, speed replaced courtship. Buyer love letters became compliance risks. Highest and best by Monday at 3 replaced counters. Agents learned which names on LLC documents sign fast and which lenders close on time. They picked certainty over sentiment because their sellers wanted the sure thing. Here's where the algorithm meets the doorstep. A school bus squeaks to a stop in front of a beige ranch on Holly Lane. A dad checks his phone. The push alert says the house across the street went pending in 36 hours. He scrolls past the list price. What matters is the ratio, 112% of ask. He sighs. He's not in the market, but he knows what this means for his property tax appeal and his neighbor's rent. The impact ripples. Rental comps rise, which justifies rent increases at renewal. Higher rents feed cap rate math that validates the last purchase price. The spreadsheet sends another offer. Every 30 days, the loop repeats. Retail buyers don't see the loop. They feel it as "we were close, but not close enough." Unknown to most bidders, inspection waivers weren't reckless bravado. They were logistics. The buyer already priced a roof, HVAC, and slab settlement risk into their model and budgeted a reserve. If a unit failed, it hit a maintenance queue, not a family's emergency fund. The family can't compete with planned risk. 3 days before offer 13, the couple's lender called with a strategy: cover a $20,000 appraisal gap and trim the inspection to health and safety only. It wasn't reckless, it was friction reduction. They toured a tired 1968 split level at the edge of a warehouse district. The yard sloped, the kitchen was orange, and the neighbor kept an RV on blocks. It sat on the market for 9 days because it was ugly, not because it was overpriced. They wrote the offer at the dining table, hands shaking. Their agent nudged the number just under the buy box's upper limit and added a 2-week rent back at no cost. At 11:42 p.m., the listing agent texted, "Congrats." The couple exhaled, then didn't sleep. In the aftermath, they discovered the cost of winning in this market. The roof needed work sooner than hoped. The street was louder than the open house suggested. But the mortgage payment was fixed, and the principal chip started. The alternative was another year of 8% rent hikes and a savings rate that never caught the down payment again. This is the bidding war you never saw. Software setting tempo, cash setting floors, and families playing catch-up with rules they didn't write. Quick bridge. Nationally, institutional operators still own a small slice, but in key metros they set comps that ripple. But the bids were just the end of the pipeline. The pipeline started upstream. The pipeline, cheap debt and a new asset class. To understand why cash showed up faster than families ever could, we need to go back to the cleanup after 2008. Banks were drowning in foreclosures. Neighborhoods had for sale signs sagging on every third lawn. The government blessed bulk sales to move inventory. Funds with dry powder showed up at courthouse steps and agency auctions. They didn't cherry pick. They bought by the dozen, sight unseen, spreadsheet first, because the arithmetic was too good. Homes at distressed discounts with decades of shelter demand behind them. What nobody knew at the time was that these courthouse purchases were seeds. A few firms stitched together property management at scale. Call centers, vendor networks, rent collection software, lockbox access, and maintenance routing that looked more like field logistics than mom-and-pop landlording. The product wasn't just a house. It was a yield stream, quarterly and predictable enough to pitch to pension committees. To securitize it, they needed volume and standardization. So they built both. Then the fuel arrived. The zero interest rate era turned leverage into a feature, not a bug. Borrow at 3 or 4%, buy assets yielding more, and clip the spread. Securitization took stabilized rent rolls, carved them into tranches, and sold the slices to investors starved for income. A suburban split level in Phoenix now had a cousin on a bond desk, and every on-time renewal payment translated into coupon comfort for someone in a glass tower. Here's the playbook that formed: acquire at scale, renovate to a rent-ready standard, lease quickly, raise rents modestly but reliably, refinance against the improved cash flow, repeat. The renovations weren't luxurious. They were durable, vinyl plank instead of oak, neutral paint by the palette, white appliances that match across thousands of kitchens. Fewer SKUs meant fewer surprises. Fewer surprises meant tighter operating margins. Tight margins meant better debt, terms the next time around. Meanwhile, vacancy wasn't the enemy it used to be. When supply is scarce, a spare unit doesn't sit long. In fact, firms learned that keeping a little slack allowed them to turn units faster and capture higher market rents. Scarcity created a cushion. If you missed by a month, rent growth covered it. This is where the pipeline met policy. With new starter forms effectively illegal on most residential land, there weren't enough replacements coming online to pressure those rents downward. Scarcity was a tailwind, and the spreadsheets knew it. As portfolios grew, something subtle happened on entire zip codes. A handful of large operators set the tempo for renewals and listing rents. If they pushed 5%, smaller landlords followed the comp. The operators knew their renewal math better than anyone. The cost of a turnover versus the gain from a higher rent. They tuned it block by block. The result wasn't a conspiracy. It was synchronized incentives. Each renewal ratcheted comp data, which fed appraisals and validated the last acquisition price. Across town, builders were getting calls they hadn't predicted a generation earlier. We'll take 50 in Phase 3. The ask came with requirements. No basements in clay soils, uniform elevation packages, HOA language to keep maintenance predictable. The real money wasn't in selling the homes. It was in operating them as a stabilized portfolio and then packaging the cash flows. Build for rent wasn't a fad. It was a supply chain, accelerated in the 2012 to 2019 and 2020 to 2022 cheap debt eras. And the chain needed lots, trades, and approvals that were already hard to get for anything small and cheap. Now remember, none of this scales without cheap debt. The spread era let operators pay prices that families couldn't justify on a 30-year fixed. The family needed a monthly payment to fit a paycheck. The fund needed a levered yield to beat a benchmark. Different calculators, same closing table. When rates rose later, the machine didn't stop. It slowed, rebalanced, sold off weaker submarkets, and leaned into markets with migration and job growth where rent strength held. Meanwhile, something else was happening inside the bonds. Performance pools rewarded steady rent growth and punished delinquency. That spilled back into property management priorities. Keep paying tenants happy enough to renew, move slow on discretionary repairs for churning tenants, and monetize fees at the edges: application, pet, smart home, convenience. Small amounts at scale padded NOI, which reduced the required cap rate, which justified paying more for the next house. Loop closed. Here's the human moment. A maintenance tech named Luis kept a notebook of doorknob SKUs and filter sizes across 300 homes. He drove the same routes weekly, shaving minutes from turns. His boss tracked his windshield time like a pilot logs flight hours. Every saved hour dropped to the bottom line. For a family, that's a Saturday. For a portfolio, it's a refinance. In the aftermath, neighborhoods adjusted around an investor's clock. Trash day mattered because turns happened then. Renewal notices clustered in the same week. Yard crews learned which cul-de-sacs had 4 doors belonging to the same company. And on paper, the asset class matured. Indices tracked it, research desks modeled it, and retirement plans bought more of it because it looked stable. Homes weren't just shelter. They were components, standardized, financeable, repeatable. First-time buyer share fell toward historic lows, around 21%, and the median first-time buyer age climbed to about 40, telling you in one glance who the system favored. They couldn't have scaled without scarcity. Policy made sure scarcity stuck. The invisible fence, how zoning locked out starter homes. While the pipeline scaled, the ground beneath it hardened. Zoning drew an invisible fence around the cheapest forms of housing and called it stability. On paper, it looked bland, single-family residential, R1, protected character. In practice, it meant one house per lot, nothing attached, nothing small, and nothing that would let a first-time buyer slip in under market. In many U.S. cities, single-family-only zoning covers roughly 75% of residential land, shrinking the missing middle habitat where starter forms used to thrive. To understand why, we need to go back to how rules get written. A city map isn't just streets, it's a grid of permissions. In most neighborhoods, those permissions froze a century ago and kept freezing. Single-family-only zones spread until they covered most residential land in American cities. Duplexes, triplexes, row houses, the forms that once made entry-level ownership possible, were pushed off the map. The starter home's natural habitat shrank parcel by parcel. Minimum lot sizes finished the job. 10,000 square feet here, 15,000 there. You can build a house, but only if you buy more dirt than a young buyer can afford. Small lots, the kind that made 1,000 to 1,400 square foot bungalows pencil, became illegal to plat. Parking minimums stacked on top. 2 spaces per unit, sometimes 3, each one a concrete tax on anything modest. Add height caps and setback rules, and you've locked in a silhouette that looks charming from the curb and brutal in the spreadsheet. Meanwhile, something else was happening in hearing rooms at 7 p.m. Homeowners showed up because they had the most to lose. Tax-free appreciation wrapped in a mortgage rate they never want to see again. They weren't against affordable housing, just against shadows, traffic, and renters out of character. Politicians read the room. Staff wrote findings about neighborhood context. The vote kept the map the same. Over time, context became code for scarcity. Here's the human moment that makes it tangible. A small builder named Dana bought a narrow corner lot thinking she'd tuck in 2 row houses, sell one to a teacher, keep one as a rental. She walked the code with a planner and learned the lot was zoned single-family only, minimum 7,500 square feet per dwelling, 2 covered parking spaces required, 20-foot front setback, 10-foot side yard, 8 foot on the other side because it faced a street. Her 40-foot wide lot could hold one house, centered like a trophy. The plan died on page 3. Multiply that by maps where single-family rules cover 75% of residential land, and you get scarcity by law. What nobody sees from the sidewalk are the knock-on costs. When the rules force bigger lots and detached forms, you stretch utilities farther, pour more driveway, and pay impact fees that don't shrink with square footage. A 1,100 square foot cottage pays the same base fees as a 3,000 square foot mini-mansion. Builders learn quickly, the margin's in the big house. So they build the big house. Entry-level dies on paper first, then in reality. Meanwhile, cities tell themselves they're preserving affordability by guarding starter neighborhoods. But they're preserving scarcity. When you forbid the smaller, attached, or subdivided options, every household willing to pay has to chase the same limited stock. Prices rise. The comps ratchet. The same silent mechanism that helped the pipeline hum now hums on the zoning map. There's a deeper irony here. The forms we banned used to be normal. Early 20th century streets mixed duplexes with single-family, alley flats with bungalows, corner stores with upstairs apartments. That cocktail made neighborhoods resilient and gave first-time owners a chance to house hack without calling it that. When zoning sterilized blocks for single use, it removed the rungs that let young families buy in and offset costs. Now remember, lenders underwrite to rules they can trust. If the code says no duplex, your appraisal grid won't have duplex comps. If your city bans small lots, your subdivision review won't process small lots quickly. Financing follows certainty, and certainty favors the projects the code prefers: bigger, fewer, farther out. Starter homes don't just lose in theory, they lose in underwriting timelines. Across town, an older couple wanted to carve their deep backyard into a second lot for their granddaughter. The block had room. The sewer main had capacity. The neighbors even liked the idea, at first. Then the notices went out. A flyer warned about density. At the hearing, 3 people spoke about parking and 1 about property values. The commission voted to keep the lot whole. The granddaughter kept renting. In the aftermath, supply skewed upscale because the rules only let upscale pencil. When cities did allow new units, they often tied them to luxury approvals with podium parking and amenity lists that look great in brochures and terrible in entry-level math. Starter homes vanished from the building permit ledger. You can't buy what isn't allowed to exist. Meanwhile, a few places tried to unwind the fence, legalizing ADUs, allowing duplexes on single-family lots, trimming parking near transit. Early results were mixed. Minneapolis paired missing middle permissions with parking reform and saw permits for 2 to 4 unit buildings rise. California's SB 9 opened lot splits and duplexes with by-right pathways in many cases. Where reforms paired permissions with realistic lot sizes, lower parking minimums, and pre-approved plans, small projects started to appear. Where cities changed a headline but left lot, setback, and parking rules intact, the old economics stayed put. The letter changed. The costs didn't. This is the quiet part of the story: scarcity by law. You never see the vote on your Zillow feed. You just see fewer small doors to choose from and a price you can't touch. And even where you could build, fees and codes quietly priced you out. The cost stack that kills small houses. While the map kept small homes illegal in most places, the balance sheet finished the job where they were technically allowed. The killer isn't a single line item. It's a stack of fixed costs that refuses to shrink with square footage. A 1,050 square foot bungalow and a 3,000 square foot spec both need the same permit packet: plan review, impact fees, school fees, storm fees, and utility hookups. The city calls them cost recovery. The builder calls them gravity. On a small house, that gravity crushes margin. Here's what that looks like on day 1. A builder wires deposits to start engineering, soils tests, surveys, and architectural plans. None of those invoices care if the kitchen is 8 feet shorter. Plan check fees tie to project type, not starter intent. Impact fees are pegged to broad categories. Single family is single family, so the cottage pays a levy designed around a suburban 4-bedroom. And the meter set fees? Same truck, same trench, same dollars. Code creep comes next. Over the years, energy rules added blower door tests, insulation specs, high-efficiency equipment, and sometimes solar. Good goals: lower bills, safer homes. but the compliance layer carries consultants, inspections, and materials that don't scale down well. Seismic and wind requirements increase hardware counts, shear walls, engineered connectors. Sprinkler thresholds trip on small footprints because the line is the same regardless of price point. None of these are frivolous. They're just fixed. Meanwhile, lumber and labor swing like a metronome set by global supply chains and local shortages. Framers bid by the day, not by the square foot. Electricians still make the same trips for fewer receptacles. Plumbers must rough and trim kitchens and baths, and even a modest house needs one of each. The smaller floor plan saves some stick count, but doesn't cut the crew mobilizations, supervision, insurance, and staging yard rent. Every mobilization is a minimum charge. Minimums eat small. Now add risk. Carry costs start the second the lot closes. Interest on land loans, taxes, insurance. Delays multiply when a city's review queue is long or utility scheduling slips a month. Each month of carry is the same cost whether the exit price is $280,000 or $720,000. Rational builders shove that risk against higher margin units where a surprise can be absorbed. On a starter, a failed inspection can erase a month of profit. Land assembly punishes small, too. Infill parcels are irregular, with easements and setbacks that make efficient layouts harder. Soft costs balloon when attorneys chase title issues and consultants shepherd exceptions through committees. Small projects can't spread those hours across dozens of doors. A 6-lot subdivision spends almost as much on traffic and drainage studies as 60 lots. The worksheet doesn't care that you're trying to keep list prices under $300,000. Then there's the street-level reality of construction logistics. Trades prioritize builders who provide steady work. A one-off bungalow gets Tuesday if it's lucky. A 50-home tract gets every Tuesday for a year. That priority shows up as schedule certainty and better pricing. Small builders pay more and wait longer, then watch interest accrue. By the time the paint dries, the big builder across town has bought down rates for buyers and packaged closing costs. Tools a starter project can't afford. Here's a micro-story from a punch list week that never penciled. A builder named Ron tried to deliver 4 cottages on narrow lots. He ran the numbers tight but clean. Midway through framing, the inspector flagged a stair detail under the new code cycle. The fix wasn't dramatic, extra headroom, a revised landing, but it triggered a redesign, rear review, and partial demo. For weeks gone, 2 change orders, 1 framer crew reassigned. Carry costs added $18,000. The margin on each cottage was $22,000. Ron finished, sold 3 to teachers, and swore off cottages. Meanwhile, cities piled on parking. 2 spaces per unit on tight lots meant driveways eating yards and curb cuts killing street parking. Concrete isn't cheap, and neither are stormwater requirements tied to impervious surface. You can shrink the living room. You can't shrink a 9 by 18 foot parking stall. In some districts, structured parking was the only path. That number alone wipes out entry-level pricing. Materials selection tells its own story. The big house carries quartz, the small house carries laminate, but both carry shipping, fuel surcharges, and finished labor that rarely halves. Warranty calls don't shrink either. A leaky valve takes an hour whether the mortgage is $1,400 or $4,000. Builders learn to standardize finishes across price points to simplify maintenance. That helps operations, not sticker prices. Developers also stare down appraisal dynamics. Appraisers lean on comps, and when few small new builds exist, the grid anchors to larger neighbors. Cost-based approaches rarely save a starter. If the comp set says bigger sells, the appraisal will struggle to support the cost of code-compliant small. Lenders get skittish. Builders can't count on buyers' financing, so they pivot to product that appraises cleanly. By the end, the ledger forces a choice. Spend the same $120,000 in fees, carrying, and overhead to produce a $250,000 home with $20,000 profit, or a $700,000 townhome with $140,000 profit. The choice isn't moral, it's survival. Underwriting committees don't greenlight good for the community. They greenlight debt coverage. In the aftermath, small houses become museum pieces from another era. Grandfathered bungalows beside 3-story townhomes and podium apartments. The cost stack didn't shout. It whispered, month after month, until rational builders walked away from the first rung. Scarcity set the stage, but incentives locked the door and swallowed the key. The tax code's quiet winners. Scarcity set the stage, but the tax code wrote the sheet music, and the melody rewards holding, scaling, and never selling to you. Start with the rule that lets a gain disappear as long as it keeps moving. Section 1031 says if an investor sells a rental and buys another like-kind property on a tight timeline, the capital gains tax waits. Not forgiven, deferred. But deferral is compound interest's best friend. Roll one duplex into a fourplex, four into 10, 10 into a small portfolio, and the tax man stays patient so long as the carousel spins. At death, a step up in basis can reset the taxable gain for heirs. The carousel stops without the bill many expected. Depreciation adds the second gear. The code assumes buildings wear out, so it lets owners deduct a slice of the structure's value each year. On paper, the asset gets older. In reality, rent checks land. Bonus depreciation accelerates some of those deductions. The result? Paper losses against real cash flow. The investor reports less income, pays less tax today, and uses the savings to buy the next house tomorrow. Meanwhile, roofs still get replaced and kitchens still get painted, but the ledger says the property is fading even as the portfolio grows. Now fold in property tax rules that lock the clock. In many states, limits on annual assessment increases protect incumbents. A landlord who bought in 2012 pays a property tax bill tied to a lower assessed value and a capped growth rate. A first-time buyer next door inherits today's price and today's rate. The newcomer shoulders more. The incumbent extracts a spread. Over a portfolio, that spread becomes strategy. Hold the low-basis homes, raise rents to market, and enjoy a shrinking effective tax rate per dollar of rent. Mortgage interest deductions tilt the field too, though not equally. Higher earners who itemize capture more benefit. On the investment side, mortgage interest is an ordinary expense, fully deductible against rental income. Leverage becomes tax-efficient fuel. On the owner-occupant side, the deduction only helps above a standard deduction threshold and within capped limits. So many first-time buyers don't feel it. The investor's debt becomes a write-off. The starter buyer's debt often doesn't. Layer on the quiet fees that flow through LLCs. Accounting, legal, and management expenses are ordinary business deductions. A scattered site portfolio turns into a small enterprise with legitimate costs that reduce taxable income. A family trying to buy a single house can't deduct the home inspector, the appraisal they paid for and lost, or the flights to see neighborhoods. The investor's learning curve is tax deductible. The family's is not. Here's how it plays out at a kitchen table. A landlord sells a $400,000 rental with $150,000 of built-in gain. Instead of paying capital gains tax now, they 1031 into two $300,000 houses, finance 60%, and book new depreciation schedules. Their out-of-pocket is modest because equity rolled forward without friction. The next April, depreciation wipes out most of the rental income on paper. Meanwhile, the tenant pays the mortgage, and the investor's tax bill funds yet another down payment. On the block, the incentives compound. Owners who can defer selling don't list unless the price clears a tax hurdle. That reduces inventory. Lower inventory props up comps. When they do sell, some sell to buyers who will 1031 and can bid higher because they're playing with deferred tax dollars and favorable after-tax math. First-time buyers bring savings. Their counterpart brings savings plus untaxed gains plus deductible interest. Different calculators, same open house. There's also a rhythm to mom and pop scaling. Start with one rental. Use depreciation to reduce taxes. Refinance after a few years of rent growth. Harvest equity tax-free via cash-out debt. And keep the 1031 option ready when selling would trigger a tax bill. Debt isn't just leverage. It's a way to pull chips off the table without a taxable event. A family buying to live can't borrow against untaxed depreciation until they already own. And even then, the interest might not help them at tax time. Property tax limits lock another advantage over time. An incumbent landlord's effective tax per unit can be thousands lower than a new buyer's. That delta drops to the bottom line and shows up in the bid. The landlord wins marginal deals, then uses the new rents to justify the next loan. The code didn't pick favorites. It just rewarded consistency, scale, and patience. None of this is illegal, and none of it is secret. It's a system design that nudges capital to accumulate and avoid friction. The net effect is simple. The longer you've been in, the more the code bends to your strategy. The newer you are, the more you pay to join. And while policy tilted the field, culture told you it was your fault. The cultural lie: blame the latte, not the leverage. While the code tilted the field. The story you heard at the dinner table blamed you. The moral was simple and wrong. Skip brunch, buy fewer shoes, stop streaming, and the door will open. Personal finance platitudes turned a structural choke point into a character flaw. But when the price-to-income ratio climbs from roughly 3.5x in the mid-1980s to about 5.0x by 2025, you can't budget your way past a map, a spreadsheet, and a tax code. Here's how the narrative lands on a Tuesday night. A buyer scrolls a feed full of no-excuses reels and calculators that assume 5% down on homes that don't exist at those prices. The advice says cut discretionary spending, save 20% of income, and you'll close in 24 months. Meanwhile, rents rose around the high single digits in many markets last year. Health insurance bumped again, and the down payment target sprinted ahead faster than the savings rate ever could. The plan isn't bad. The inputs are. Wages and home prices used to dance together. They split. Income stepped forward. Home prices leaped. Lower rates masked it for a while by shrinking the monthly payment, but the sticker kept moving. When rates rose, monthly costs doubled for the same house. The latte didn't do that. The leverage did. A disciplined saver named Priya tracked every expense for 3 years. She delayed a car, shared a place, picked up weekend shifts. She cleared student loans early, built credit, and banked 10%. Twice she had enough for 5% down on a modest condo. Twice the appraisal gap turned her savings into almost. Each time, a buyer with cash bridged the gap. Her spreadsheet kept saying so close. The closing table said, bring more. Shame crept in where strategy should have lived. Friends posted keys on Instagram. Parents told stories about buying at 28 with one income and a handshake loan. Employers offered webinars with budget tips and coupon codes. Priya internalized the miss as a failure of willpower, not a math problem with moving denominators. She stopped talking about it. Meanwhile, the cultural scripts valorized hustle as the universal fix. Add a side gig, wake up at 4 a.m., work harder than your problems. The subtext: if you're still renting, you chose it. What nobody put in the captions was the part about zoning hearings, fee schedules, minimum lot sizes, or investor-grade financing that made certain doors open faster than others. The grind can't rezone a block. Blame loves small targets. It looks cleaner to scold a daily habit than to explain how property tax limits reward incumbents or how 1,031 exchanges defer taxes for decades. It's easier to tell someone to stop eating out than to argue for parking reform or pre-approved small plans that would shave months and tens of thousands off an entry-level project. Easy advice spreads. Hard fixes take meetings. There's a deeper cost to the lie. When renters think it's their fault, they retreat from coalitions that could actually move rules. They avoid asking lenders about niche programs because they assume they're not ready. They don't assemble fast offer teams because they think saving more is the only lever. They wait for an affordability season that doesn't arrive. Now remember, this isn't an argument against discipline. Cash reserves matter. Credit matters. But the order of operations flipped. You can do everything right and still lose if you play on a board wired for scarcity. The answer isn't to stop trying. It's to switch games where the rules allow traction. Here's a human pivot. A teacher named Marco stopped chasing single-family listings and looked at what the map would allow. His city legalized accessory dwelling units and trimmed parking near bus lines. He co-bought a tired duplex with a friend, lived in one unit, rented the other, and used a rehab loan to fix systems first, finishes later. The payment hurt less because someone else covered half. The appraisal looked friendlier because duplex comps existed. He didn't beat the big players. He sidestepped them. Psychologically, reframing matters. Shame burns energy you need for strategy. When you see the system, you stop taking rejection personally and start testing edges. Credit unions with portfolio loans, grants that stack, inspection scopes that reduce friction without risking safety, micro-neighborhoods where the buy box hesitates because the kitchen is orange. You also start showing up where rules get set. A parking minimum trimmed by one space can unlock dozens of small units. A pre-approved plan can save months. Zoom out, and the cultural lie has another trick. It tells owners who got in earlier that they earned the difference. Many did work hard. They also bought under different rules. Holding that both can be true, effort matters and systems changed, opens room for solutions that don't turn neighbors into enemies. This is where the story pivots, from helpless to strategic. The point isn't to absolve, it's to aim. Your budget is a tool. So is zoning reform. So is co-buying, house hacking, and targeting overlooked inventory. The latter isn't coming back in its old form. But rungs still exist if you know where to look and how to build a few yourself. The playbook they don't want you using. If the old first rung is gone, you build a new one with the rules as they are, not as they were. Start where zoning already says yes. In most cities, small multifamily flies under the radar compared to single-family bidding wars. Duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes live on different MLS tracks and scare off buyers who only know the suburban script. Condos can carry fees, but condoized duplexes sometimes dodge the fiercest buy box competition because they confuse algorithms trained on detached comps. AGU-friendly lots are another doorway. If your city legalized accessory units, you're not buying a house, you're buying a subsidy you can build in the backyard. Here's the arithmetic that makes this work. A duplex asking $520,000 looks worse than a $440,000 house until you underwrite the second rent. If the other unit supports $1,850 a month and your total pity is $3,300, you just turned a scary payment into something you can carry without bleeding. Live small, rent the larger side, swap later. FHA's 3.5% down still applies on 2 to 4 units if you live there, and some rehab loans wrap repairs into the mortgage, so you can fix systems before you worry about the backsplash. The buy box hates odd floor plans and dated finishes. You should love them. Stop trying to solo this. Assemble the first rung with partners who can carry risk together. Co-buying agreements aren't exotic anymore. They're contracts with exit clauses, maintenance splits, and refinance triggers. Tenancy in common structures let friends buy a single property with clear shares recorded. Housing co-ops are slower to find but powerful when organized. Group equity replaces landlord profit, and the monthly carrying charge pays down a collective loan. The key is paperwork first, keys second. Get a lawyer who has done TICs. Decide how you'll value sweat equity. Decide what happens if someone loses a job. Clarity makes friends into co-owners instead of co-defendants. Aim for overlooked inventory the algorithms hesitate to grab. Estate sales with nicotine walls, foreclosure leftovers with weird wallpaper, houses with carports instead of garages, split levels that Instagram forgot. Write offers on homes that sat past day 7. The buy box punishes uncertainty, you harvest it. Keep inspections tight but not reckless. Health and safety scopes prioritize the real killers: roofs, foundations, electrical panels, sewer lines. Offer a post-close credit for minor items instead of repairs that spook sellers. Add rent-backs for certainty. Hedge appraisal risk with smaller, surgical gaps, not blanket waivers. The goal is friction reduction, not blindfolds. Work your financing edges. Local credit unions and community banks keep portfolio loans on their books and underwrite nuance that big banks ignore. They'll sometimes count ADU future rent, approve mixed use on the corner, or bless unusual condo bylaws. Ask about temporary buydowns where the seller funds a 2-year payment relief. It can solve early cash flow while you stabilize a unit. Layer grants, municipal down payment assistance, employer matches, state programs for teachers and nurses, and confirm they stack with FHA or conventional. If your market has small dollar mortgage pilots, target sub-$250,000 properties where national lenders won't bother. Fewer bidders means better terms. House hacking isn't a trend, it's the original starter math. Live in one unit, rent the others. Turn a garage into an office for a small business tenant. If the code allows ADUs, build a detached studio first, move into it, then rent the main house. Or reverse it. Renting rooms isn't glamorous, but it shrinks time to equity. Track everything like a business: leases, receipts, maintenance logs. That discipline helps in 2 ways. Lenders like files that look institutional when you refinance, and the tax side rewards ordinary and necessary expenses. Land value arbitrage hides in plain sight. Follow transit overlays, school boundary changes, and employer announcements. When a bus rapid transit line gets funded, parcels within a quarter mile will feel it in 18 to 36 months. Zoning overlays near stations often relax parking and setbacks. That's your cue to pay a bit more today for a lot that will allow a second door tomorrow. Buy on the wrong side of a good school line if the district is studying boundary shifts. Path of growth is a cliche because it works. If you target neighborhoods with real jobs, not just vibes, you can move policy levers from where you stand. City councils count emails and attendees. Parking minimum reductions unlock small lot infill by removing a concrete tax on every modest unit. Ask for pre-approved AGU plans that waive review time. Push for lot splits that allow two small homes where one big one stands. Speak specifically. Allow duplexes by right on our one lots within a half mile of transit. Remove one off-street parking requirement. Adopt a pattern book. Then show up again. One trimmed requirement changes spreadsheets more than 100 tweets. Bring it together with speed. Strategy beats purity here. Build a coalition before you shop. A lender who closes fast, an agent who has sold 2 to 4 units, an inspector who does health and safety scopes in 24 hours, a contractor with a standing crew for small turns. Have your proof of funds for appraisal gaps ready, even if it's a small one. Have your grant letters pre-approved. Have your LLC formed if you're co-buying, with operating agreements signed. When the listing appears, you move like a professional because you are one, you're building a household business. The people who benefit when you stay confused don't want you using this playbook. Use it anyway. The goal isn't to win the old game. It's to play the one that's actually on the field. Timeline, when the ladder disappeared. To see the map, we need to know when the ground shifted. Start in the 1970s, when single-family zoning hardened into custom. Cities drew lines that said one house per lot, then stacked minimum lot sizes, setbacks, and parking on top. The missing middle forms didn't vanish overnight. They just stopped being legal in most places. Starter homes didn't die in demolition. They died in the code book. 3 beats later in the policy timeline, the 1990s added a quiet wait. Impact fees scaled up and spread. Cities needed infrastructure without raising taxes, so they charged new homes up front. The fee didn't care if the floor plan was 1,050 square feet. It landed like a flat tax on small. Developers learned to push price points higher to keep margins. The first rung lost grip. Meanwhile, the price-to-income ratio in the 1990s hovered around the low 3s nationally, about 3.5x by 1985, where a median earner could plausibly buy a median house. Then came the 2000s credit wave, a surge of easy underwriting that masked fragility. When it cracked in 2008, foreclosures flooded the market. That was the moment the pipeline began. Bulk sales of distressed homes turned scattered houses into a scalable product. The ladder bent, but it didn't snap, yet. What nobody understood in 2012 was how quickly scale would arrive. As foreclosures cleared, firms that bought by the dozen stitched operations into an asset class. From 2012 to 2019, cheap money turned stabilized rent rolls into securities with predictable coupons. The build-for-rent concept moved from experiment to template. A house became both shelter and bond substitute. Neighborhoods felt it as quicker cash offers and rent increases, lining up with renewal dates. Then the zero-rate era lit the fuse. From the 2020s to 2022, borrowing costs fell to levels that made levered yields irresistible. Families experienced affordability as a lower monthly payment, but the sticker sprinted ahead, prices jumped. The median home-to-income ratio moved toward 5.0x by 2025, near historic peaks. Mortgage rates later rose, doubling monthly costs for the same house. The old arithmetic, save a down payment, buy a modest home, stopped working at normal speeds. Meanwhile, zoning reform flickered to life. A few cities legalized accessory units and duplexes on single-family lots, trimmed parking near transit, or offered pre-approved plans. Minneapolis ended single-family-only zoning and paired it with parking reforms. Permits for 2 to 4 unit buildings rose meaningfully in the following years. California's SB 9 and SB 10 opened duplexes and streamlined small multifamily. Progress was real where rules bundled permissions that actually shaved costs and time. But across most of the country, single-family-only maps still covered roughly 3/4 of residential land, so the relief couldn't scale. Scarcity kept its seatbelt on. During 202 to 2022, algorithms learned new tricks. Instant comps, rent models, and buy box filters let capital move faster than households. By the time a listing hit a feed, 2 offers were already drafted. Appraisers looked backward, buy boxes looked sideways and forward. Each cash close at 112% of ask nudged the floor for the next 10. The feedback loop tightened. In 2023 to 2024, rate shocks slowed transaction counts, but didn't rebuild the ladder. Owners sat on low-rate mortgages and didn't list. Inventory shrank. Investors shifted strategy, favoring renewals, fee layers, and selective acquisitions in high-growth corridors. Builders chased absorption with incentives and rate buydowns, but small, entry-level units still choked on fee stacks and code thresholds. The supply that arrived leaned big, or became rentals by design. Here's the microclimax, the chart that breaks hearts in planning meetings. On one axis, median home price. On the other, median household income. The two lines track closely through the 1990s, drift in the 2000s, split wide after 2012, and yaw open during the pandemic. By 2025, the national median home price sits around 5.0x median household income, up from roughly 3.5x in the mid-1980s. In metros across the Sun Belt and West Coast, the ratio leaps to levels that force first-time buyers to save for far longer, while rents rise faster than bank yields. In a few Midwestern cities, the gap is smaller, but zoning and fees still tilt entry-level math. Meanwhile, time to save metrics stretch. With rents taking a bigger share, households need more years to bank a down payment. Even disciplined savers chase a moving target as appraisal gaps appear in hot zip codes. The cultural script keeps saying, try harder, but the timeline says different. Policies set in the 1970s, fees layered in the 1990s, financialization scaled after 2012, and the ZIRP frenzy from the 2020s, 2022 finished the job. In the aftermath, a different kind of starter appears: duplexes, ADUs, condoized small buildings, where reforms allow them. They're not everywhere, and they're not cheap, but they're the first rungs that still exist. Where parking minimums fell and lot splits passed, small builders re-entered with pencil-thin projects that work only when review times are short and permits predictable. This is the map of when the ladder disappeared. It wasn't one moment, it was a series. Zoning narrowed the path, fees raised the toll, cheap debt financialized the road, and a rate shock stranded would-be climbers between rungs. Now, follow the money from your block to the bond desk.
The tipping point. Doors close, accounts open. It starts with an email that smells like bleach. Unusual activity identified. Certain transactions restricted pending review. Translation. Your piggy bank met winter. Aunt reply alls in caps. We are a small charity. Like shouting restores overdraft. The bank responds with a PDF titled Enhanced Due Diligence, which is HR for money, show bylaws, minutes, conflict policy, grant logs, updated signatories, and explain why your debit card thinks Disney is tax exempt. Within an hour, cousin tries to buy gas, and the pump beeps like a dog whistle for shame. Back-channel message leaks into my inbox because irony has a punch card. Can someone pull cash before freeze? The bank, clairvoyant, flags sudden cash withdrawals. An analyst somewhere circles it with a highlighter named Don't. They get one ATM success at dawn, $400. Then the machine flips to contact branch. The camera got a crisp headshot of panic. The state ag posts a notice that could sedate a rhino. We have opened a formal investigation. 10 words, ruined brunch. The charity website coughs and goes dark. Instagram bio swaps to temporarily offline with a dove emoji, which is brave for people who forged minutes. Comments don't stop, they migrate. Facebook groups, neighborhood apps, your aunt's text chain, the chair account, everywhere. Employers step in with corporate font that smells like HR. Effective immediately, employees on administrative leave pending review. Mr. Vibes is suddenly Mr. Quiet. He DMs people, can we talk off-platform, which is scammer for hello. Replies are screenshots and links, bless the petty saints. Credit unions start their own choir. A donor's bank calls me to verify whether the gala existed. I say, please consult exhibit chair and send the article link. The banker chuckles, then turns into a robot. Thank you for confirming. Chargebacks begin evangelizing. People post, my credit union reversed $200 after I showed the $9.90. Popcorn emoji becomes the town flag. Then the cashier's checks flock. Envelopes with no return address. Crisp bank paper for oddly exact amounts. $27.62, $403, $50. No note, no apology, just hush money without the dignity to hush. Folks map them on a Google Doc like a meteor shower. Bank A, Bank B, twin handwriting. The amounts match my toucan discrepancies because God loves proof. Aunt reply alls again with, we're making this right. The bank writes, please do not reply all to this message. I frame that sentence in my heart. The charity attempts a Zoom transparency town hall, 8 minutes long. Someone pins the 990 next to the Orlando selfie and asks, which one is outreach? Screen goes black. First comment, start with a mirror. Follow-up email promises external auditor engagement. Second, and a calculator. Meanwhile, my inbox pings with a formal records preservation expansion. Now it names personal devices, cloud drives, even third-party messaging apps. I forward it to the family list with the subject important. Within 30 seconds, a cousin posts, taking a social media break. Investigators are going to crochet with that sentence. The bank escalates from concerned to mom tone. Provide updated board roster, minutes, authorizing signatories, and conflict of interest policy by close of business. Aunt pastes a Bible verse. The banker pastes a checklist. Only one of them can freeze your card. Across town, branches get visitors wearing sunglasses indoors. A teller texts my friend, your cousin is here crying in a lobby. The state drops polite thunder. Formal RFI for contracts, receipts, minutes, beneficiaries, and documentation supporting reported related party transactions. I wish the branch well and drink water. They CC compliance and sound like a sleep app. I reply with a neat link called, here you go, government, and a note, signatures on several minutes are forgeries. See Exhibit F. They say, received. That single word has gavel energy. Then the domino nobody planned for. The payment app responds to an investigator with corporate joy. We've identified transfers consistent with misuse. Account restrictions applied. Translation, your Zelle is grounded. The charity's group chat flips to Morse code. Declined. Pending. What do? Pray. Pray doesn't clear. A local hardware store posts, reminder, our donation was 2 boxes of socks. Their comments are a TED Talk. In-kind inflation ruins trust. The meme machine drafts a wanted poster. Have you seen these socks? Fair market value, $8,000. Aunt's final Hail Mary is a Facebook Live in soft lighting. We are heartbroken. A heartbroken debit card tries to buy coffee and gets declined mid-latte. Barista, do you have another method? Caption that, please. The empty chair account posts, today I did more than their board. I supported. Photo, chair taped with a bank hold notice. I cackle, then file 3 more emails and post-filing communications. Because joy without documentation is just cardio. By evening, pressure has texture. Website gone, bios neutered, accounts stiff, employers alert, government awake, donors organizing, banks humming. I pour tea like evidence and read the last note of the day. Failure to provide governance documents may result in account closure. I forward it to the family with a single line. Send minutes, not verses. Aunt types, deletes, types, deletes. No reply. I tell my succulent the truth. Doors are closing, accounts are opening, but not the way they hoped. And somewhere, a cashier's check dove circles, looking for a mailbox that still believes in magic. Consequences. Land with interest. The first envelope arrives looking expensive, like it moisturizes. Demand for accounting, restitution, and records. It uses hereby twice and therefore 3 times, which is adult for we're serious. Aunt reply alls. Is this legit? I say. It's printed on paper thick enough to stop a lie. 14 days to list beneficiaries, show receipts, propose payback. Not pray back. Pay back. Then the IRS slides in with vocabulary that makes cousins Google while crying. Intermediate sanctions and excess benefit transactions. Translation in human. You ate from the pot. Now pay back the stew plus a spicy tip. Cousin texts, what's excess benefit? I say, remember bridesmaid dress? The IRS does now. He sends 9 skull emojis and a photo of the tax code like it's a horror novel. The state ag emails a draft consent judgment that reads like a breakup with bullet points. Dissolve the charity, restitution to donors, ban from fundraising for a timeout, independent monitor if you ever touch a jar again, and the classic no admission of wrongdoing, which is legal for you did it, but fine. Aunt whispers, we can negotiate. Cool, I say. Open with Disney isn't a 501, C3. Solo consequences spin up, starring Cousin the Litigious. He gets charged with forgery and wire fraud because apparently the state also noticed my signature cosplaying spaghetti. The filing quotes electronic communications and interstate solicitation and basically reads like Exhibit F ate its Wheaties. He posts, innocent until proven guilty, and disables comments when people reply with my forged loops and clown shoes. The bank finishes its glow up from concerned to mom voice. Accounts restricted, historical transactions under review, possible closure pending documentation, and emails averse. The bank emails a checklist and a deadline. Guess which one freezes your debit card? Cousin tries to buy coffee. The card declines mid-foam. Barista asks, another method? He tries prayer. The machine says beep. My favorite administrative exfoliation arrives. My name gets vacuumed off everything. Secretary of State updates to show I don't live there anymore. IRS changes books and records contact. Bank drops me from signatories so hard I hear confetti in my soul. I print the page that says Treasurer, vacant, and tuck it into a folder called Freedom. Leave it empty like the church basement. Demand letters multiply like rabbits with clipboards. Donors get individualized notices. Confirm dates, amounts, expect restitution schedule. The schedule looks like a student loan payment plan for people who shop with other people's money. Some donors write, give it to an actual family. The AG replies, cute, but it's evidence. Evidence first, generosity later. Aunt forwards an IRS letter asking for grant records, receipts, minutes, conflict policies. Do we have a conflict policy? She asks. Yes, I say. Don't get caught. She sends a sad face. The IRS sends a time limit. One of those delivers consequences. Cousin the Litigious sends me a Word doc titled Proposal. Passive voice is doing CrossFit. Funds were inadvertently redirected. Signatures were misunderstood. Outreach included morale. I track changes it like a petty professor. Inadvertently becomes we did. Misunderstood becomes forged. Morale becomes bridesmaid dress. I return it with, now it reads. The consent judgment rolls toward a judge with the calm of a glacier. The family drafts a statement. We're proud of what we built. I suggest, we lied. We're sorry. We're paying everyone back. We resign. Cinderella was not a beneficiary. They pick none of my edits and wonder why the comments roast them on low heat. Penalties start nibbling like piranhas. Excess benefit taxes on the consulting to Community Outreach LLC. Interest attaching like lint you can't pick off. They ask the IRS for a payment plan. The IRS invents payment plans. They just don't accept muffin credits. Then a very boring miracle. A letter that says, my removal is complete. No further obligation. Records updated. It is so dull it shines. I tape it to my mental fridge. Peace tastes like laser-printed toner. Family tries one more group chat respawn. We're moving forward as a family. I reply, move forward with receipts. They eject me like a virus. I feel lighter than the truth. The judge signs. The listing flips to dissolved. A digital tombstone. The website evaporates. Bios collapse. Donation links 404. The chair tweets, I outlived them. The pastor posts, we'll host the new coat drive with verified partners. The terrifying CPA volunteers pro bono and names the fund something boring on purpose, like Stability Fund. Spicy is for YouTube. Boring is for bank accounts. I send 3 emails titled remove, my name. They bounce back with completed. I close my laptop, pat the toucan spreadsheet, and finally let the laugh out. Not mean, relieved. The jokes kept me sane. The receipts did the work. And when karma arrived, it brought itemized interest and a pen. Aftermath, boundaries and clean paperwork. First order of peace. I changed my number like I was entering witness protection from group chats. New email. New voicemail that says, if this is about charity, put it in writing. My spam filter treats the word restructure like a raccoon at the door. I freeze my credit so hard Equifax sneezes. 2-factor on everything. Passwords become therapy sentences. E will never sign minutes I didn't attend! Petty flourish. Therapy gets the deluxe package. I sit down and empty a year of but their family onto a couch that has seen worse. We sort responsibility from proximity. She says, you didn't cause this. I say, but I escalated it. She says, you told the truth. We applaud boundaries like they're an Olympic sport. My homework is 1 line. Say no like a period, not a paragraph. Holidays get downsized to sanity. I send 1 message in October, not attending. Wishing you health and honest spreadsheets. I am uninvited from Thanksgiving and my blood pressure drops 3 points. In December, the only doorbell is mail delivering a boring letter that says records updated. Boring is my new kink. A few relatives try the reunion tour. Water under the bridge? There is no bridge. There's a crosswalk named Restitution. Use it. I keep everything in writing, which ruins their favorite hobby, revisionist history. They send feelings. I return forms. Donors do what my family pretended to do. Build something real. PTA moms, a church across town, and a CPA who terrifies me in a good way. Launch a legit fund with bylaws, conflicts policy, receipts that smell like paper, not acrylic. They ask me to join the board. I say no with love. I'll donate. I'll read your 990 like it's romance, but my treasurer hat is retired to a beach with sunscreen. Clean paperwork becomes a hobby. I scrub my name off directories like I'm exfoliating the internet. Secretary of State portal finally reflects my freedom. I print it and file under a tab labeled peace like it's minimalist art. I set Google alerts for my own name because paranoid is preventative care. Anytime a cousin types trees, my phone growls. My house gets a shrine to petty closure. 1 corkboard with 3 items. The first demand letter stamp. My notarized nope. And a post-it that says call your bank before your aunt does. It's corny. It's also how I sleep. I set a new family policy. No job references, no co-signing. No, can we put this on your card? No, you're good with computers. I am not good with computers. I am good at forwarding emails to investigators. My love language is CC. Occasionally, someone slides into my DMs asking, do you feel bad? I feel accurate. Facts are calmer than feelings. The jokes kept me sane. The receipts did the work. And when the chair account posts, today, I supported more than their programs. I held still. I double tap and log off. The last administrative spa day is credit monitoring nicknames. I label alerts with petty titles. Bridesmaid dress watch, Disney detector, rent radar. Every ping is either nothing or a cousin learning the word budget. Either way, my phone and I are on the same team now. I stop replaying their speeches and start replaying the sound of a stamp. The notary's thump was my baptism into boundaries. My name is clean on paper and cleaner in my head. I'm not the treasurer of their vibes. I'm the archivist of my peace. The charity wasn't a charity. It was a mirror that showed me the last person I'm ever protecting again is the liar wearing my last name. If you want the step-by-step on pulling 990s without crying, spotting Disney in a memo before it bites you, and setting boundaries that actually stick, watch the follow-up breakdown. Subscribe for more true story chaos where the jokes land, the receipts talk, and karma charges interest.
The Field Guide, Actionable Paths for First-Time Buyers. If buying into the old game keeps failing, shift to tactics that trade polish for probability. Start by saving for speed, not size. You don't need a perfect down payment. You need liquidity to close gaps that kill deals. Build a friction fund alongside your down payment. Money earmarked for appraisal gaps, rate buy-down points, and post-close essentials. Underwrite your life with the hire of 2 numbers. Pity at today's rate or pity with a 1% increase. If you can carry both, you can carry surprises. Run the math on rate buydowns before you offer. A permanent buydown can make a home you already like livable without counting on rate cuts later. If one discount point lowers your rate by 0.25% and recoups in 36 months, compare that to a 3% lower price that recoups never. Sellers often prefer points because it props up comps. You take the payment relief, they keep the headline. Now, target inventory algorithms ignore. Look for homes that scare casual buyers, not inspectors. 197's kitchens, nicotine walls, worn carpet over hardwood, overgrown yards, dated floor plans with split levels and sunken dens. Estate sales move on certainty. They'll trade price for quiet escrow. Probate attorneys like buyers who sign clean and close on time. Ask your agent to pull stale listings, past 14 days on market with recent price cuts, and write offers that trade speed for a modest discount. Use inspection-like contingencies without gambling your future. Order a pre-offer walkthrough with your inspector when allowed and scope only the killers: roof, foundation, main sewer, panel, HVAC age, moisture. Structure your offer with a capped credit for those categories if issues surface. Sellers fear open-ended repair lists. You remove that fear while covering real risk. Pair it with a short loan and appraisal timeline you can actually meet. Assemble a lender bench before you tour. Credit unions and community banks fund portfolio loans that tolerate weird, non-warrantable condos, ADU income, mixed-use corners. Ask each lender 3 questions. Do you count future ADU/second unit income for qualification? What's your fastest clear to close in the past quarter? Do you allow layered grants with FHA or conventional? Get written answers. Choose the one who has closed a 2 to 4 unit purchase in your zip in the last 90 days. Stack financing edges. FHA 203K and conventional rehab loans wrap repair budgets into the mortgage. Use them to fix systems first, finishes later. If your employer offers a down payment match, confirm its compatibility with your primary loan and whether it must be repaid if you leave. City grants usually require owner occupancy. Make sure your house hack plan fits. Small dollar mortgage pilots exist in overlooked metros, sub-$250,000 properties where national lenders won't tread. Fewer bidders, clearer comps. Build your coalition like a small business. You need an agent who's closed duplexes and understands rent rolls, an inspector who turns health and safety reports in 24 hours, a lender with delegated underwriting, an insurance broker who quotes quickly on mixed occupancy, and a contractor who prices turns in unit-by-unit scopes. Put everyone in one group chat. Run a mock escrow with a dead listing to test timelines. When the real deal appears, you'll already have muscle memory. Write offers that look institutional without losing heart. Include a short inspection period with a pre-booked slot. Offer a rent back for 29 days if the seller needs it. Attach your DU/LP approval, proof of funds for a specific appraisal gap, and a draft addendum for a lender-paid buydown. Keep your offer one page tighter than your competition by moving minor asks to a single clean credit line. The goal is to make your name synonymous with close. House hack arithmetic still works if you buy form, not finishes. In a duplex or triplex, live in the smallest unit first. Rent the others at conservative rates from current comps, not wishful lists. If local code allows ADUs, consider moving into a backyard studio after year 1 and renting the main house. Track every expense. File like an operator. Lenders favor clean books when you refinance into better terms later. Hunt for micro-arbitrage. Follow transit overlays and school boundary studies. When a bus rapid transit line gets greenlit, focus on parcels within a quarter mile that allow an ADU by right. When a school redraws lines, values adjust. Shop the side gaining access before prices catch up. Ask planning staff for pre-approved plan sets and objective standards. Those cut months, which cut carry costs for small sellers willing to deal. Finally, pace your psychology. Set a decision calendar. 30 days of learning, 60 days of offers, 30 days to reset, and stick to it. Celebrate clean losses. They sharpen your next bid. A no that teaches you a seller's true lever is a step forward. You're not waiting for the market to become fair. You're building a file that makes you hard to beat. Building equity without a deed. If buying now is impossible, don't go dormant. Shift the asset you're building. Start with equity proxies that defend purchasing power while you wait. High-yield cash accounts and short-term treasury bills give you safety plus a real return when rates cooperate. Build a T-bill ladder that matures every month or two so your down payment stays liquid and beats a checking account. Add a slice of tips for inflation hedging if you're saving over a longer horizon. The principal adjusts with CPI, so your future dollars don't shrink while prices run. I-bonds are another quiet tool. You're capped per year, but their inflation component protects the core of your future down payment. The catch is lockups and purchase limits, so treat them like ballast, not your entire plan. Meanwhile, keep the taxes simple. Hold treasuries in a way that doesn't surprise you at April. State tax advantages matter in high-tax states. For real estate exposure without the key, learn the public and private menus. Public REITs are liquid and transparent. They pay dividends and let you ride sectors you understand, like apartments or industrial. They're volatile because stocks are volatile, but the dividend stream trains you to think in cash flow. If you step into private notes or syndications, slow down. Read fee waterfalls, look for alignment, and ask who controls capital calls. Debt funds can feel safer, first position loans, defined yields, but the risk is still underwriting quality and sponsor behavior. Equity syndications swing harder. Insist on track records through a full cycle, not just the zero-rate era. There's a middle lane in build-to-rent neighborhoods and scattered site portfolios offered as fractional shares. Fees stack fast. Compare net yields after every layer: acquisition, asset management, property management, and promote. If you can't explain the fee stack to a friend in 2 minutes, you don't own the risk you think you do. Sweat equity is the lever most people ignore. If you can't buy, become valuable to those who can. License stack. Get a salesperson's license to earn commission splits on your own future purchase and to sit closer to deal flow. Add a property management credential and manage small portfolios nights and weekends. Owners trade knowledge and referrals for reliability. Learn simple turns, paint, LVP, hardware, so you can price a scope on site and rescue a deal with sweat instead of cash. Career arbitrage moves the needle more than budgeting tweaks. A single jump to a role with a housing stipend, relocation bonus, or remote flexibility can compress your time to equity by years. If remote work is on the table, map geographic arbitrage. Live in a lower-cost metro while earning national market pay. Bank the spread explicitly. Don't let lifestyle capture it. 6 quarters of disciplined arbitrage can equal a 5-figure appraisal gap fund. If you're staying put, create pre-equity, rights that become property. Land options are a simple contract with an owner who doesn't want to sell yet. You pay a small fee for the right, not the obligation, to buy at a set price within a defined window. Dress it with value. Agree to carry taxes, mow, or secure the site. Record the option so it's real. If the neighborhood improves, you control the upside without carrying a mortgage. Microdevelopment with partners turns small dirt into 2 doors. Find a deep lot where the code allows a flag lot or an ADU. Form an LLC with clear roles. One partner brings cash, one brings construction management, one navigates permits. Use a pre-approved plan to cut time risk. Your sweat becomes equity at each milestone. Entitlement achieved, slab poured, final inspections. Exit options matter. Sell 1 unit to harvest cash, hold both and refinance, or split the lot via condo map so each partner walks with a deed. Community lots, churches, unions, and nonprofits often sit underused. They need revenue. You need a site. Propose a ground lease. You fund and build a small cottage court, pay the landowner a predictable ground rent, and keep the improvements. Ground leases scare lenders, so court the credit union that already finances local projects. The land stays in community hands. You create units without buying the dirt. If capital is thin, trade time for option value. Bird Dog small off-market deals ethically. Introduce owners to reputable buyers who solve problems, and collect assignment fees that seed your friction fund. Or join a small builder as an assistant project manager for a phase, learn schedules, subs, and city quirks, and ask to co-invest in 1 unit at a discount in exchange for your nights and weekends. Whatever path you pick, act like an operator. Keep clean books for every dollar tied to housing, courses, tools, mileage, licensing. Build a 2-page investment memo for each decision. Thesis, risks, contingency. Liquidity beats bravado. Diversify your pre-deed equity so a bad sponsor, a job hiccup, or a rate surprise doesn't wipe the runway you're laying. Bring it together, and the myth dies. You don't wait empty-handed. You grow purchasing power, relationships, and skills that transfer the day a door opens. The first rung isn't a porch anymore. It's a file, a network, and cash that moves on your command. The starter home didn't vanish. It was repackaged, financialized, and sold back to you with fees layered in for everyone but you. You've seen the numbers. Price to income around 5.0x today versus 3.5x in the mid-1980s. First-time buyers down near 21%. Median age about 40. Single-family zoning covering roughly 75% of residential land. And institutional owners small nationally, but decisive locally. If you want the policy fixes and the playbooks that actually move the numbers, watch the next deep dive on zoning levers and buyer strategy. Subscribe to How Wealth Grows for the series on rebuilding the first rung, and bring someone who needs a map.